There is something most people never want to admit. The reason they are not where they want to be in life is not their circumstances. It is not bad luck. It is not the economy. It is not their past. It is the people sitting closest to them every single day. That is a hard truth, and most people will push back against it immediately because it feels disloyal to say. It feels like blame. It feels unkind. So instead of facing it, they carry it quietly inside them, watching years pass, watching their goals shrink, watching their dreams fade, all while telling themselves everything is fine. But everything is not fine, and deep down you know it. Think about the last time you shared a big goal with someone close to you. Think about what happened next. Maybe they smiled politely but said nothing encouraging. Maybe they listed every reason it would not work. Maybe they changed the subject entirely. Maybe they made a joke that carried just enough doubt in it to plant a seed of uncertainty in your mind. And maybe, just maybe, you walked away from that conversation a little smaller than when you started it. That feeling is real. That damage is real. And it happens to people every single day, without them fully understanding what is going on. Here is the truth. The people around you are not always trying to hold you back. Most of them are not doing it on purpose. But whether it is intentional or not, the result is the same. When you are surrounded by people who think small, fear change, resist growth, and settle for average, you will slowly begin absorbing those same habits, those same fears, and those same limitations. It happens quietly. It happens gradually. And by the time most people realize it, years have gone by and the person they wanted to become feels like a distant memory. This message is not about cutting everyone out of your life. It is not about abandoning people who love you. It is about understanding one of the most powerful and least discussed forces in human behavior. Your environment shapes you. The conversations you have shape you. The attitudes of the people around you shape you. And if you never examine that influence, you will spend your entire life wondering why your potential feels capped, why your confidence keeps slipping, and why success always seems just out of reach. Stay with this, because what you are about to hear could be the most important shift in thinking you make this year. You were not born with your current beliefs about what is possible for you. Those beliefs were given to you. They were formed through years of conversations, reactions, opinions, and environments that quietly told you who you were and what you were capable of. When you were a child, you did not question your potential. You dreamed without limits. You were not afraid to say what you wanted to become. You spoke about your ambitions with confidence because nobody had yet told you that you were being unrealistic. Then something changed. People started reacting differently to your dreams. Adults gave you practical warnings. Friends told you to be careful. Family members shared stories about how hard things were. Teachers told you to focus on safe choices. And slowly, without noticing it, you started adjusting your dreams to match the expectations of the people around you. You started making your goals smaller so that others would not feel uncomfortable. You started hiding your ambitions so that you would not be judged or laughed at. You started believing the ceiling they could see was your ceiling too. That is the invisible weight of other people's limitations. It does not feel like oppression. It feels like love. It feels like wisdom. It feels like people who care about you trying to protect you from disappointment. But what it actually does is transfer their fears into your mindset and call it good advice. Let me make this very clear. Someone who never tried to build a business does not have qualified opinions about your business. Someone who never pursued their dreams does not have qualified opinions about yours. Someone who settled for a life that felt safe does not have the authority to tell you that your goals are too big. Yet most people allow exactly these voices to dictate the size of their ambitions. Think about the people in your immediate circle. How many of them are actively growing? How many of them are chasing goals that scare them a little? How many of them read regularly, invest in themselves, study success, and take intentional steps toward a bigger future? And how many of them are simply surviving, complaining, accepting, and standing still? You do not have to be harsh in your assessment. You can love people exactly as they are, while also recognizing that their energy, their mindset, and their habits are not the ones you want to absorb. The two things are not in conflict, but you must be honest about what is happening, because you cannot protect yourself from an influence you refuse to acknowledge. The invisible weight is real. It is measured in the goals you did not chase because someone laughed. It is measured in the ideas you kept to yourself because you knew they would not be well received. It is measured in the opportunities you talked yourself out of because the doubt around you became louder than the belief inside you. That weight accumulates over time. And the longer it goes unexamined, the heavier it becomes. Most people understand that attitudes can influence a room. Walk into a space where everyone is laughing and relaxed, and you feel it immediately. Walk into a space filled with tension and anxiety, and you feel that too. The emotional atmosphere of an environment is real, and your nervous system picks it up without asking your permission. The same principle applies to the people you spend the most time with. Their energy does not stay separate from yours. It bleeds into your thinking, your mood, your expectations, and your behavior in ways that happen below the surface of your awareness. Spend enough time around someone who is bitter about life, and you will start noticing bitterness creeping into your own thoughts. Spend enough time around someone who believes nothing can change, and you will start feeling less motivated to try. Spend enough time around someone who mocks ambition, and you will start mocking your own. The process is slow and subtle, which is exactly why it is so dangerous. On the other side of this, spend consistent time around someone who is genuinely growing, and you will feel pulled in that direction too. You will start thinking about your goals more seriously. You will start questioning your excuses. You will start feeling slightly uncomfortable with standing still, because the person next to you is moving. That discomfort is growth trying to happen. This is not a new idea. You have probably heard the phrase that you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. People often hear that and nod politely and then go back to spending time with the same people doing the same things. But the reason that idea has been repeated so many times is because it is deeply observably true. Think about periods in your life when you felt the most motivated, the most focused, and the most alive. Who were you spending time with? Chances are, you were surrounded by people who were building something, pursuing something, believing in something. Their energy pulled yours upward. Now think about periods when you felt most stuck, most drained, and most uncertain about your future. What was the energy of the people around you during that time? Almost certainly the environment was not pushing you forward. Here is the critical insight. You did not necessarily make conscious choices during either of those periods to absorb that energy. It happened automatically, because that is how human beings work. We are social creatures. We sync with our environments. We calibrate ourselves to the people we are closest to. That is not weakness. That is biology. But once you understand it, it becomes your responsibility to use that knowledge intentionally. You cannot afford to be passive about who you allow into your emotional and mental space. The energy around you is working on you whether you invite it or not. There is a particular kind of environment that is harder to identify than an openly toxic one. It does not involve obvious negativity or outright discouragement. It simply involves comfort. Comfortable mediocrity is the feeling that everything is fine, even though nothing is growing. It is the group of friends who are content to talk about the same things every week, complain about the same problems, make the same jokes, and go home to repeat the same patterns. Nobody is fighting. Nobody is unhappy. Nobody is causing trouble. But nobody is pushing forward either. This environment is dangerous precisely because it does not feel dangerous. There is no alarm. There is no red flag. There is warmth, familiarity, and belonging. And those things are genuinely valuable, which makes it so hard to recognize when they are also holding you still. The problem with comfortable mediocrity is what it does to your standards over time. When average becomes the norm around you, average starts feeling acceptable. When nobody in your circle is setting goals, goal setting starts to feel unusual. When nobody around you is pushing themselves, ambition starts to look like arrogance. You unconsciously calibrate down to match the level of the environment, not because you chose to, but because that is what feels socially normal. Think about how differently you might behave in a room full of high achievers compared to a room where nobody has tried anything difficult in years. In the first room, you might feel inspired, slightly competitive, and motivated to share your goals because that is the language being spoken. In the second room, you might hold back, downplay your ambitions, and focus on fitting in rather than standing out. Neither version of you is the real you. Both versions are responses to the environment, but one of those responses moves you forward, and the other one keeps you where you are. Comfortable mediocrity is also seductive because it removes pressure. Nobody is expecting anything from you. Nobody is pushing you to be more. Nobody is measuring your progress. And while that might feel like relief in the short term, over years it becomes a trap. The absence of expectation slowly becomes the absence of growth. And the absence of growth slowly becomes the feeling that life is happening to you, rather than being built by you. That feeling is one of the most common quiet disappointments people carry. They look around at their lives and realize they drifted to this point without ever really choosing it. They ended up here not because they made a decision to stop growing, but because they never decided clearly enough to keep going. Before going further, It is important to make a distinction that most conversations about this topic miss. Not everyone who challenges you is unsupportive, and not everyone who is warm toward you is helping you grow. Real support is not about comfort. Real support is not about endless agreement. Real support is about someone caring enough about your potential that they push you toward it even when that feels uncomfortable. A person who tells you every idea you have is brilliant, who validates every excuse you give, who never challenges your thinking, and never holds you accountable is not supporting you. They are comfortable with you staying exactly where you are. That kind of relationship feels good in the moment, but it does not produce growth. The people who actually help you grow are often the ones who ask harder questions. The ones who say things like, "Are you sure you are doing everything you can?" The ones who notice when you are hiding behind reasons. The ones who believe in your potential so deeply that they refuse to let you casually give up on it. Those conversations can feel uncomfortable. They can sting a little. But that sting is often the sensation of your real potential being pulled upward. On the other hand, there are people in your life who appear supportive, but are subtly doing the opposite. They celebrate your failures quietly. They feel relieved when you do not move ahead because your progress makes them uncomfortable with their own stillness. They keep offering you reasons to slow down because your momentum is a reminder that they chose to stop. These people are not always aware of what they are doing, but the impact on you is the same regardless of their intentions. Learning to tell the difference between real support and comfortable validation is one of the most important skills you can develop. Real support stretches you. It believes in a version of you that is bigger than the version you currently believe in. It does not tear you down, but it also does not let you coast. Surround yourself with people who hold a higher image of you than you currently hold of yourself. Those are the relationships that change your life. One of the quietest ways that people around you keep you small is by making you feel like you need to shrink in order to belong. You know this feeling? You are around a certain group and you instinctively dim your excitement. You downplay a success so nobody feels uncomfortable. You stop yourself from sharing a new goal because you already know it will be met with skepticism. You laugh along with jokes that quietly mock the kind of person you are trying to become. You play small not because you want to, but because playing big feels like it would damage the relationship. That is shrinking, and most people do it so automatically and so consistently that they forget there was ever a bigger version of them to begin with. Over time, shrinking becomes a habit. It becomes the default setting. You start doing it even when you are alone because you have internalized the expectations of the people around you so deeply that you carry their limitations with you wherever you go. You hear their voice in your head when you start dreaming too loudly. You feel their doubt when you start moving too fast. You pull yourself back down, not because they are in the room, but because they have built a room inside you. Breaking that habit requires two things. First, it requires awareness. You need to recognize the moments when you're shrinking and ask yourself honestly why. Is it because the goal is truly unrealistic? Or is it because someone you care about made you feel like wanting too much is a flaw? Second, it requires practice. You need to practice expressing your real ambitions even when it feels uncomfortable. You need to practice staying in the conversation when doubt enters it instead of retreating. You need to practice being the person you are working to become, not the person others are comfortable with you being. This is not about arrogance. It is not about broadcasting yourself or demanding attention. It is about refusing to make yourself smaller than you are in order to manage someone else's feelings about growth. The world does not benefit from your smallness. The people who love you do not actually benefit from you abandoning your potential, and the version of yourself you shrink to protect the comfort of others is never fully happy. That version of you always knows something was left behind. How to identify who is lifting you and who is limiting you. Not everyone in your life deserves the same level of access to your goals, your energy, and your inner world. That is not cruel. That is smart. There is a simple way to begin identifying who is lifting you and who is limiting you. Pay attention to how you feel after spending time with different people. Not during, because during the conversation it is easy to be caught up in the comfort of familiarity. Pay attention after. After spending time with this person, do you feel motivated or drained? Do you feel clearer about your goals or more uncertain? Do you feel more confident in your abilities or quietly more doubtful? Do you feel like your future is something you are actively building or something you are passively waiting for? Those feelings are information. They are telling you something honest about the influence that person carries in your life. Do not dismiss them because the person is someone you have known for years, or because you feel loyal to them, or because they have never done anything deliberately harmful. The influence does not have to be malicious to be real. Pay attention also to what people consistently talk about. People who spend most of their time focused on problems, on what is wrong, on who is to blame, and on why things never work out are operating from a mindset that, if absorbed, will narrow your own thinking. People who spend time talking about ideas, goals, solutions, growth, and possibility are operating from a mindset that expands you. You do not need to judge either type as a person, but you do need to be honest about what each one is doing to your thinking. Also pay attention to how people respond when you share something positive about your progress. Do they celebrate it? Do they ask questions because they are genuinely interested? Or do they minimize it, redirect the conversation, or immediately introduce a reason why it might not last? That reaction tells you a great deal about the role they are playing in your journey. You will likely find that your circle falls into rough categories. Some people energize you, some people drain you, some people challenge you to grow, some people subtly pressure you to stay the same. Some people hold a bigger image of your future than you currently hold of yourself. Some people are unconsciously relieved every time you do not advance. Once you see the pattern clearly, you can make intentional choices about how much access different people have to your time, your energy, and your most important goals. Protecting your vision from other people's opinions. One of the most valuable things you can learn is when to share your goals and when to keep them close. Not every idea deserves an audience before it is ready. Not every goal needs to be announced. There is a common mistake that many people make when they get excited about a new direction in life. They immediately share it with everyone around them. They are full of enthusiasm. They believe in what they are doing, and they want the people they care about to feel that excitement with them. Sometimes that works, but often what happens instead is that the excitement collides with someone else's doubt. A well-meaning comment introduces uncertainty. A small question you do not yet have the answer to suddenly feels much larger than it needs to. Someone's past failure in a similar area becomes a warning that you carry with you into your own effort. The vision loses momentum, not because it was a bad vision, but because it was exposed too early to an environment that was not equipped to protect it. There is wisdom in protecting your goals during their most fragile stage. When you have just made a decision to change your life, the belief driving that decision is fresh, but not yet solidified. It needs to be fed by your own actions before it can withstand the weight of other people's opinions. Build first, talk later. Let the results begin to exist before you bring in perspectives that might slow you down. This is not secrecy for its own sake. This is discipline. It is the understanding that not every person in your life has the vision or the experience to add value to your goals, and exposing those goals to doubt before they have roots can damage them more than the doubt itself. When you have made enough progress that a skeptical comment no longer threatens your direction, then you can afford to include more voices. By then, you have evidence, you have momentum, you have proof that what you are doing is real, and from that position, you can receive criticism more constructively because it no longer has the power to stop you. Protect the vision, feed it with action, and be selective about who you allow into the planning stages of your most important work. What to do when it is family. This is where the conversation becomes harder, because the people who have the most influence over your sense of self are often the people who raised you or grew up alongside you. Family is complicated. The love is real. The history is deep. The loyalty feels non-negotiable. But family can also be the most powerful source of limiting beliefs, because the messages received in childhood are the ones that go deepest and stay the longest. When a parent tells a child repeatedly that money is hard to earn, that success requires luck you do not have, that certain kinds of people do not achieve certain kinds of things, those messages become foundational. They do not feel like opinions because they came from the people the child trusted most in the world. They feel like facts. Becoming aware of this dynamic is one of the most powerful things you can do for your future. It does not mean resenting the people who gave you those messages. It means understanding that they were passing on what they believed to be true, what they themselves had been told, what their own experiences had taught them. Their limitations were real to them, but they do not have to become real to you. The challenge with family is that the expectation to maintain the relationship can feel like it conflicts with the need to grow beyond it. People worry that pursuing a life that looks different from what their family knows will feel like a rejection or a judgment. They pull back from their own ambitions to avoid creating distance. But here is what most people eventually discover. The version of you that grows, the one that stops shrinking, the one that pursues its potential honestly, is ultimately a better family member than the one who stayed small to keep the peace. Because the resentment of unexpressed potential poisons the people around you whether you acknowledge it or not. The frustration of a life unlived finds a way out, and it rarely comes out quietly. You can love your family and still choose a different path. You can respect the people who raised you and still choose not to repeat their limitations. You can stay loyal and still grow. Those things are not in conflict, though they can feel that way during the transition. Have compassion for the people in your life who are not where they hope to be. Understand that their doubt in your potential often comes from their own disappointment in possibilities that never opened for them. That does not make it right, but it makes it understandable. And when you understand it, it loses some of its power over you, building a new circle without destroying the old one. When people begin to understand the impact of their environment, one of the first instincts is to start cutting people off. They feel a surge of clarity about who has been holding them back, and they want to create immediate distance. That approach is rarely the right one, and it is almost never the sustainable one. Growing your circle does not require destroying the existing one. What it requires is intention. It requires you to actively seek out environments, communities, conversations, and relationships that challenge you to grow. You add more of what you need rather than immediately removing what is already there. Start looking for people who are doing the things you want to do. Not celebrities. Not people you will only ever observe from a distance. Real people who are a few steps ahead of you in areas that matter to your goals. Those people exist in communities built around growth, around specific industries, around shared ambitions and shared disciplines. Seek those communities out. Read the words of people who think the way you want to think. Spend time daily absorbing perspectives that challenge your current ceiling. Let those ideas become part of your internal conversation. Over time, the voice in your head that sounds like your most limiting relationships will start to be joined by voices that reflect the thinking of people who built what you are trying to build. Be patient with the people in your existing circle who are not growing. Do not write them off entirely. Some of them may surprise you when they see your consistency, your progress, and your discipline. Some of them will be inspired. They will ask questions. They will become curious. A few of them will begin to grow themselves, not because you preached at them, but because you showed them what was possible. Others will not. And that is something you have to be at peace with. Not everyone will choose growth. Not everyone will be ready at the same time. Your job is not to drag anyone along. Your job is to continue moving and to stay honest about who is helping you do that and who is not. You do not have to make a dramatic declaration. You do not have to create conflict. You simply begin investing more of your time, your energy, and your attention in directions that move you forward. Quietly, naturally, the people who belong in your next chapter will begin to take up more space, and the people who were keeping you small will find less and less of you available to keep. The life waiting on the other side of this decision. There is a version of your life that exists beyond the ceiling other people built for you. A version where your goals are taken seriously, where your ambitions are supported, where your progress is celebrated, and where the people around you are moving in directions that inspire you to move further. That life is not reserved for other people. It is not a fantasy. It is the natural result of making intentional choices about who you allow to shape your thinking and spending your time in environments that feed your growth rather than your doubt. But it does not happen by accident. It requires you to first believe that you deserve better than the environment that currently surrounds you. And that belief might be the hardest part, because years of shrinking can make it feel presumptuous to want more. Years of being told to be realistic can make ambition feel like a flaw. Years of absorbing other people's limitations can make it genuinely difficult to remember that you are not limited by them. You are not. Whatever they could not achieve does not define what you can. Whatever ceiling they accepted does not belong to you. Whatever fears they passed on to you can be recognized for what they are and set down. The people around you have shaped you, yes, but you are not finished. You are still being shaped by every decision you make, every environment you choose, every voice you allow into your mental space. That means the direction can change. That means the influence can change. That means you can deliberately begin building the kind of environment that pulls the best out of you rather than pressing it down. This will not be comfortable at first. Growth rarely is. There will be moments when you question whether this direction is worth the friction it creates. There will be relationships that feel strained as you begin insisting on a bigger life. There will be moments of loneliness as you move toward something that not everyone around you can see yet. Stay anyway. Keep building. Keep seeking out the people and the environments and the conversations that make you better. Because every step you take in that direction compounds. Every new relationship that challenges you becomes part of the foundation for the next one. Every new idea you expose yourself to opens the door to another. Every courageous conversation you have builds your capacity for the next one. The people around you are shaping you whether you choose it or not. The only question is whether you're going to be intentional about who those people are, whether you're going to protect your vision, protect your energy, and protect your potential from the well-meaning and not so well-meaning influences that have been making you smaller than you are. You already know what it feels like to shrink. You have been doing it long enough to know that it does not lead to happiness. You already know the weight of carrying dreams you never pursued because the people around you made them feel impossible. Now it is time to find out what happens when you stop shrinking, when you stop waiting for permission, when you stop adjusting your ambitions to match someone else's limitations, when you finally step into an environment that expects something from you, that holds you accountable, that celebrates your progress, and that believes you are capable of far more than you have ever shown. That version of your life is not on the other side of a perfect plan. It is on the other side of a decision. The decision to stop letting other people's small thinking determine the size of your future. Make that decision today, and then make it again tomorrow. Because the most dangerous thing in your life right now might not be the risks ahead of you. It might be the company you keep.